Have you ever found yourself snapping at someone and then wondering, why did I even get that upset? Maybe it was a careless comment from a friend. Maybe your spouse said something in a tone that just rubbed you the wrong way. Or maybe someone cut you off in the grocery store parking lot and your blood pressure shot up like they'd committed a felony. At this stage in life, you'd think we'd be immune to that kind of nonsense. But here we are, still getting worked up over the little things. And it's not just frustration, is it? Sometimes it's a tightness in your chest, a clench in your jaw. That feeling that your peace, your hard-earned peace, has been hijacked by someone who probably didn't even mean to upset you in the first place. Now let's get something straight. It's not about huge betrayals or life-altering drama. We're talking about the small stuff, the slow driver in front of you, the family member who forgot your birthday, the news anchor who seems like they're just trying to rile you up. These things sneak in, steal your calm, and leave you rattled. And yet, deep down, you know they're not worth your energy. So why do they still get to you? Here's the truth. The power these moments have over you isn't because they're big. It's because they catch you off guard. You're not reacting to just that one thing. You're reacting to the weight you've been carrying all week. That silent buildup of stress, little annoyances, responsibilities, expectations. And when someone pokes the wrong nerve at the wrong time, boom, you explode. Not because you're weak, but because you haven't had space to breathe. But that's exactly what we're here to change. You're not here because you want to feel nothing. You're here because you want to feel free. Free from the emotional roller coaster that makes every little annoyance feel like a personal attack. You want to wake up and move through your day with steadiness. You want to sit in your favorite chair at night and feel proud of how you handled the world, not drained from fighting it. That's not just possible, it's doable. And it starts with learning how to control what you can control, your response. You see, nobody can hurt your peace unless you let them. That's not just a nice saying, it's a way of life. And today we're going to walk through some of the most powerful strategies that can help you take that power back. This isn't about changing the world, it's about changing your relationship with the world, about becoming someone who doesn't get knocked off balance every time life throws a curveball. So, let's talk about it. Starting with something that's probably been happening without you realizing it. You don't snap because of one moment. You snap because of 20 silent ones that came before it. Think of your mind like a dam. Every little stress, every moment you brushed something off instead of dealing with it. That's water rising behind the wall. The longer you go without releasing some pressure, the more that wall starts to crack. Then one day, someone says something harmless. Why didn't you take the trash out? And just like that, the dam breaks. But it wasn't that comment that broke you. It was everything underneath it. That's the first step to regaining control, recognizing the pattern before it controls you. Most people wait until they're already angry to figure out what went wrong. But by then, it's too late. The damage is done. The words are out. The silence is heavy. Instead, what if you started paying attention to your warning signs? When do you feel yourself tensing up? Is it when you're stuck in traffic? Or when the grandkids are running wild and you just want 5 minutes of quiet? Maybe it's that tone your adult child uses when they speak to you like you're the child. You know the one I mean. These aren't random explosions. They're predictable if you're willing to look. Start writing these things down. Yes, even now. Keep a small notepad on your table or use the Notes app on your phone. It's not silly. It's strategy. When you start tracking what triggers you, you stop walking into the same trap over and over again. There's a phrase that says, what you don't track, you can't change. So track it, look at it, understand it, then prepare for it. The next time that thing shows up, and it will, you'll be ready. You won't explode. You won't raise your voice. You'll see it coming, take a deep breath, and stand your ground. Now, let's talk about something just as important: what you're really angry at. It's rarely the thing in front of you. It's not the spilled coffee. It's not the forgotten errand. It's not even that relative who always seems to have something sarcastic to say. What sets off your anger is often something you've been carrying for a long time, something unspoken. Maybe it's that feeling of being taken for granted, or that quiet sadness you don't talk about, the one that whispers, "No one sees what I'm going through." Maybe it's fear of being irrelevant, of losing control, of time moving too fast. We don't always like to admit that, especially at our age. We've been through too much. We've survived loss, raised families, handled responsibilities. We're supposed to be the strong ones, right? But strength doesn't mean silence. It means honesty. Anger often shows up wearing the wrong name tag. It points at your spouse or your neighbor or the news, when deep down it's coming from somewhere else entirely. That's why the second strategy is to pause and ask, what am I really upset about? Am I angry because my daughter forgot to call me back? Or is it because I feel like I'm no longer a priority in her life? Am I snapping at my partner because of what they said? Or because I feel like I'm doing everything around the house and no one's helping? These are real emotions, and they're valid. But if we don't examine them, they end up coming out sideways, in comments, arguments, slammed doors, and cold silences. You owe it to yourself to name your real feelings, not just the ones that are easiest to shout about. When you name it, you take away its power. You stop being dragged around by it. Now here's a thought I want you to carry with you today. Just because someone says something thoughtless doesn't mean it was meant to hurt you. 80% of the things that bother us weren't even personal. That email your son sent without a thanks at the end. Maybe he was busy. The friend who canceled lunch. Maybe her knees were acting up again, and she didn't want to admit it. The stranger who cut in front of you at the store. They probably didn't even see you. When we take everything personally, we turn ourselves into emotional puppets. Every comment pulls a string. Every tone of voice knocks us off center. But that's not how it has to be. You can start choosing which battles are yours to fight and which ones you simply walk past. You can start saying, "That's not about me," and move on without a storm brewing in your chest. It's not about becoming cold. It's about becoming steady, like a tree that stands tall in the wind. Not because the wind stopped blowing, but because the roots go deep. Let people talk. Let life do what it does. You don't have to be part of every story. You don't have to respond to every jab. You just have to decide who you want to be in those moments and then stand there. Calm, quiet, in control. Because here's the truth, that might just change everything. Most of the time, it's not even about you. And once you stop taking everything as a reflection of your worth or your importance, you'll start to feel something you haven't felt in a while. Peace. And that's where real strength lives. When you start realizing that most of the noise around you isn't really aimed at you. Something interesting happens. You begin to reclaim your calm. You're no longer jumping at every bark, every complaint, every raised eyebrow. You start choosing your peace, and that's a kind of quiet power most people never learn. Now let's explore a question that might just change the way you respond to almost everything. Will this matter in 5 days? Simple question, right? But powerful, because when your emotions are running high, everything feels urgent. Everything feels like it's now or never. That late bill, that rude neighbor, that forgotten phone call, your brain makes it feel like a crisis. But here's the thing. Our brains are built to scan for threats. That was helpful when we were running from wild animals. But these days, your threats are more likely to be the grandkids spilling juice on your clean shirt, or the cable company putting you on hold for 40 minutes. Your body reacts the same. Heart rate up, muscles tense, voice sharper than you meant it to be. But how many of those things will still matter by the end of the week? Will that offhand comment from your son-in-law still sting? Will the person who cut you off in traffic still be living rent-free in your head? Chances are, no, they won't. But the mood they left behind might still linger. Unless you decide to let it go. That's the danger. Not the event, but the emotional hangover that follows. So the next time you feel that tension creeping in, pause, breathe, ask yourself, will this matter in 5 days? If the answer is no, walk away, let it go. Turn on some music, water your plants, call a friend who lifts your spirit. Because whatever it is, if it's not going to matter, it's not worth your peace. And when it will matter, when it's something real, like a conflict that needs resolution, or a repeated boundary that's being crossed, then you deal with it, calmly, clearly, but with the strength that comes from choosing your response, not being swept away by it. Now I want to talk to you about something most of us were never really taught. It's the value of the pause, that space between what happens to you and how you respond. Think of it like a yellow light at an intersection. It's that moment where you can either slam on the gas and risk a crash, or slow down and make a smarter choice. The pause is where your power lives. Most of the time, anger feels like it comes out of nowhere. One moment you're fine, the next you're slamming a cabinet door, or snapping at someone you love. But that moment in between, that sliver of time, is where everything can change. It's not about bottling up your feelings. It's about giving yourself just enough space to understand them, to decide what to do with them. Because reacting is easy. Anyone can yell, storm out, hang up the phone. But responding, that's where wisdom steps in. That's where maturity and grace show up. You don't need to say the first thing that comes to mind. You don't need to respond in the heat of the moment. In fact, the wisest people are often the ones who say the least when emotions are high, not because they're afraid, but because they've learned that real control doesn't shout, it waits. The next time someone says something that stings, or you get that familiar wave of irritation in your chest, just pause. Count to 3. Clench your fist if it helps. Close your mouth. Breathe through your nose. Even that short break gives your body a chance to cool down, and your mind a chance to catch up. That pause might save your evening. It might save a relationship. It might even save you from saying something that keeps you up at night, wishing you could take it back. The more you practice the pause, the more it becomes part of you. It's like a muscle. The first few times you might forget, you might mess up, but keep trying. Each time you succeed, you build emotional strength. And that strength, it's visible. People notice it. They respect it. And most importantly, you start to feel proud of the person you're becoming. And here's another truth worth thinking about. You're not angry because the world is too much. You're angry because your boundaries are too vague. Let that sink in for a moment. How many times have you said yes to something you didn't really want to do? How often have you let someone cross a line because you didn't want to seem rude? How many times have you picked up the phone at 9 p.m. even though you were exhausted just because you felt guilty saying no? Boundaries aren't about being mean. They're about being clear. And clarity is a gift to yourself and to others. Think of your energy like your favorite old armchair. It's comfortable, familiar, maybe a little worn, but it's yours. And every time you let someone dump their problems in your lap, every time you let them step into your peace without permission, it's like they're tracking mud across that chair. Eventually, it's stained, it's messy, and it doesn't feel like yours anymore. You have the right and the responsibility to protect that space. To say, I'm not available after dinner, or I'd rather not talk about politics, or I need a little time to myself today. You don't have to yell. You don't need to justify it. You just need to mean it. And you know what? The people who matter will respect you for it. And the ones who don't, well, they'll adjust. Or they won't. Either way, your peace isn't up for negotiation. You've lived too long and worked too hard to let every little inconvenience or inconsiderate moment pull you off course. You've earned the right to feel calm in your own skin, to enjoy your days without constantly putting out emotional fires. And when you start setting those clear boundaries with your time, your attention, your space, you'll notice something powerful. Your anger won't bubble up as quickly, your resentment won't build like it used to, because you've taken control. Not of them, but of you. That's what this is all about. Not changing everyone else, but leading yourself. You're not here to be everyone's problem solver. You're not here to absorb the world's tension. You're here to live your life fully, joyfully, on your terms. And every time you pause instead of react, every time you set a boundary instead of boiling over, you reinforce that truth. You're in charge. You're not a victim of moods, mistakes, or other people's bad days. You're grounded. You're steady. You're someone who moves through the world with intention, not just reaction. Now you might be thinking, but sometimes things are just ridiculous. And you're not wrong. Life, people, the things we see on the news or here at the dinner table, it can all feel absurd. But here's a tool that can change how you carry those moments. Humor. Yes, laughter. A little chuckle. Even just a quiet smile to yourself when something makes you shake your head and mutter, "You've got to be kidding me." Because once you can laugh at something, it loses its grip on you. Humor isn't denial. It's not brushing things under the rug. It's a release valve. A way to deflate the tension that's trying to fill your chest. The moment you can take a step back and see the silliness in someone's attitude or the craziness of a situation, that's the moment you take the upper hand. And no, you don't have to be the life of the party or a natural comedian. This isn't about cracking jokes for others. It's about finding that little space inside yourself that says, "This is too ridiculous to take seriously." Because honestly, most of it is. Think back to the last time someone said something that made you mad. And now, looking back, you almost want to laugh. It was probably something small, but your reaction made it feel big. That's the power of perspective. You don't have to carry every silly comment like it's a stone in your pocket. You can shake your head, breathe it out, and smile as you move on. That smile, even if no one else sees it, that's your proof that you're in control. And there's something else powerful about humor. It keeps you human. It reminds you that not everything deserves a serious response, that not every conversation needs a lecture, that sometimes the best way to protect your peace is to simply not take the bait. Because let's be honest, some people just want a reaction. They feed on drama, outrage, conflict. But you've moved beyond that. You're not trying to win every argument. You're trying to win your day. And sometimes the best way to do that is to shrug, smile, and go make yourself a cup of tea. Now, this brings us to something deeply personal, something that can reshape the way you live your life, one moment at a time, how you respond to the world, to every annoyance, every slight, every challenge, is not just a reaction, it's a reflection of who you are becoming. Every time you lose your temper over something small, every time you let anger take the wheel, you're practicing being someone you don't want to be. But every time you pause, breathe, and choose your response, you're building the person you do want to be. That version of you, calm, thoughtful, grounded, doesn't just happen. He's built, brick by brick, choice by choice. So ask yourself, how would the best version of me handle this? Would he yell back? Or would he take a breath and say nothing at all? Would he stew in resentment? Or would he address the issue calmly or let it go entirely? Would he let someone's bad mood ruin his morning walk, his cup of coffee, his moment with his grandchildren? Or would he hold on to his peace like it's something sacred? Because it is? You're not just reacting to life, you're training for it. You're sculpting your mindset, your habits, your future. And the truth is, the best version of you is already inside you. Every time you resist the urge to snap, every time you smile instead of sigh, every time you protect your boundaries with quiet strength, you bring that version of you to the surface. It doesn't happen overnight, and that's okay. Progress doesn't have to be perfect. What matters is that you try, that you notice the moment, that you interrupt the old pattern. You might still get mad sometimes, that's normal, you're human. But now, instead of being controlled by that anger, you'll start to control how it moves through you. Some days will be easier, others will test you. But remember, each of those days is a chance to practice, to sharpen, to grow. So if someone says something foolish tomorrow, if your plans fall through, if life throws one of its usual curveballs, don't take it as a punishment. Take it as an opportunity, a chance to ask yourself, who do I want to be in this moment? Because that question, D, and your answer, was, will shape everything. It'll shape your relationships, your health, your days, your legacy. You don't need to be perfect, but you can be present. You can be intentional. You can be proud of how you respond, even when things go sideways. And when you live that way, day by day, choice by choice, something beautiful starts to happen. You start to feel lighter, not because the world got easier, but because you got stronger. You feel more in control, not of others, but of yourself. And you start to realize that emotional strength isn't loud. It doesn't come with shouting or stomping or slamming doors. It comes with quiet, with stillness, with wisdom. You've lived long enough to know what matters and what doesn't. Now is the time to live like it. Hold your peace like a treasure. Respond with purpose. Live with intention. Because every moment, every single one, is a chance to become the man or woman you're proud to be. If this message spoke to you, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Share your thoughts, your story, or even just a moment you were proud of, how you handled something tough. Someone else out there might need to hear it, and you could be the spark they've been waiting for. And if you found this helpful, give the video a like and subscribe to the channel. This space, Strong Elderly Life, is here for you, to give you tools, encouragement, and strength for the road ahead. Because this isn't just about managing anger. It's about living well, living free, living with purpose. Here's to living your best life at any age. And remember, the calm you seek is already within you. You just have to choose it.